So I'm not sure if I have one new webcam to show you today or two new webcams. So I'll just show you. This is the Insta360 Link 2, and this is the Insta360 Link 2C. So kind of two webcams, but also kind of not, because they're the same webcam. I'm sure by now you're familiar with the Insta360 Link. We did a video on it forever ago. It was like the first real gimbal webcam. Kind of broke some ground. Well, today, Insta360 is making the follow-up, the successor to the Insta360 Link. They're making a handful of improvements. They're fixing a couple things. They're doing some new stuff, so let's talk about it. Start with this guy. This is the Insta360 Link 2. It's $199, which is over $100 cheaper than the Insta360 Link launched at, and it's got 2 motors on it instead of the original 3. More on that in a little bit. This is the Insta360 Link 2C, and it is the exact same camera, same sensors, same lenses, same image quality. In fact, I'll put them up side by side right here just so you can see they're the exact same camera. But for those of you who want this camera but don't need all the little fancy motors, well, now you can get it without it for $50 cheaper, and this is $149. And I want to start this video by talking about the bodies, because these are some unique looking cameras. I've been able to use these for the past couple days now. Insta360 is sponsoring this video, and they sent these a couple days early for me to test out and get my opinions put together on them. The cameras are housed in this significantly larger camera body. They're both long and rectangular. On the left side is the camera, and on the right side is this little weird indent. And even though they both have the same indent, it's actually 2 totally different things on each camera. On the gimbal version, it's like this hidden LED indicator ring, which you can't see unless it's lit up, but it's actually really clean. This gives you all the same indicators that the original Insta360 Link did, but it was a ring around the base. This one is just right on the front there. For the 2C, the LED indicator is actually that little dot in the middle, and then the indented section is a capacitive button. And if you double tap that section, it zooms in 1.5 times and then tracks your face as you move around digitally, kind of similar to like center stage that the new iPads have. And it actually works surprisingly well. So even though this one doesn't have a physical gimbal on it, you still can kind of get some of those framing features there. The gimbal version also has a capacitive button, but it's on the base, and it's indicated by this little circle right there. If you tap that spot once, it'll activate or deactivate motion tracking, and if you double tap it, it'll recenter the gimbal. The 2C also has this little switch on the side to activate privacy mode. It's this little shutter right there. So that's kind of neat. The gimbal version doesn't need that because once the camera's not active for about 10 seconds, it just kind of looks down. It's got a little bit of shame. It's like it's embarrassed. And about that one missing motor, this being a 2-motor gimbal instead of a 3 like the original, it's missing the one motor that made it rotate this way, which I feel like was the least important one. I'd imagine that's part of the way they managed to drop the price by over $100 when they released this. And personally, I think that's probably a good call. I mean, you can still just turn the thing sideways and it will still go into vertical mode. I just never found myself switching on the fly and needing that 3rd motor. But let's talk about what's really important and get into the image quality of these 2 cameras. You can see when I put these side by side with the original Insta360 Link, there's a pretty dramatic improvement in image quality. My face just looks sharper, there's more detail there, also more detail in my eyes. The skin color is much more natural, the dynamic range looks much more dramatic and also natural. It definitely feels like a worthy successor to the original, like definitely a considerable improvement. The tracking has also gotten a lot better. On the original one, if you moved out of the frame from left to right too fast, the camera would just kind of lose you and stare up into the void of the ceiling. They say in the marketing that the old one was object tracking and this one is AI object tracking, but I'm always curious what that means. Like, what's the spec that officially makes something AI? Is it a whole new chip? Is it like if you insert this line of code, it's now officially AI? I don't know. But the tracking is definitely a lot better. The autofocus is also great on this. I had no problems with it. I ran to the back, ran to the front, lifted up a product in front of me, super fast, super accurate, no focus pulsing at all. I feel like we're getting to a point where $150 webcams today in 2024 look the way $300 webcams looked 2-3 years ago. But other than just being a new and improved Insta360 Link, they've also added a handful of new features. So let me list off some of my favorites. The first one is called Pause Track Area, and it actually solves the main problem I have with these gimbal webcams and the main reason I don't use them, which is that if you have it on motion tracking, it's just kind of always moving. Even the time, like if you move a little bit, it moves with you. and you start to feel kind of nauseous after you look at it for too long. Well, now you can set up your main areas, or like your main points of interest, where as long as you're in this area, the camera doesn't move. It's locked onto a spot. So let's say you have your desk and you have your standing area. You square those off as your main points, your main no track areas. And as you sit at your desk, it points at your desk. And then when you move out of the rectangle, the camera recognizes you've left the area and it starts to track you until you get to the other one, and then it snaps to that area again. And I think that's probably the most useful thing a gimbal camera has added. Even the setup is really cool. It takes this panoramic, almost 360-degree shot. So as you section off these areas, it shows you on a full map of where your no track areas are. Next feature is their new background bokeh, which you're probably thinking, we already have background blur. Hold on. We've all been in that Zoom call with the person who has their background blur set to 100%. First of all, don't be that guy. You're not fooling anyone. That's not what cameras look like. Second, this new bokeh setting is a much more natural type of background blur, and it does a much better job of separating you from the background blur, especially hair. I found that turning it to about 40% is about the sweet spot, where it's making a noticeable difference and really improving your image cinematography. It's probably not the right word, but at the same time, it still feels very subtle and natural. So maybe avoid cranking it too far above that. Everyone on your Zoom call will thank you. They also added a lot of new microphone features, like AI noise canceling stuff. For example, it can lower the volume of other people in the room while increasing your volume.
And this is the built-in background noise removal. And this is the built-in background noise removal. Right now you're hearing the laptop microphone while Dustin is vacuuming the wall. And this is the webcam microphone with background noise removal turned on, or it's called voice focus.
It also still has one of my favorite features from the original, which is saving presets to the camera. So let's say this is where I game most of the time. I can save this as a preset, but then sometimes I like to get up and walk over this way and I want to show the room more. I can go over here and I can add this as a preset, and then use Alt-1 to come back to me, and then Alt-2 to go to this preset. And you can get up to 10 of these presets and even save them to the Stream Deck as a hotkey if you want. But beyond all that new stuff, it's got all the same things that the original Insta360 Link had. It has hand gestures for activating tracking or zooming in. It's got whiteboard mode, it's got desk mode. You can also use your smartphone as a remote for it, so you can manually control it from anywhere. And if you have any interest in this webcam at all, of course I will put a link to it in the description down below so you can pick it up. And while you're down there, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave your favorite emoji in the comments for engagement. Thank you for that. Insta360 rarely misses. They don't usually put anything out unless it's good, so I think they did a great job this time as well. And as always, happy streaming.